Hey everyone, how are you all doing? I hope you've had a great day, because today is going to be very special, because I get to bring you a much longer video, and I also get to make fun of one of my favorite fanboys, and that is Harmon Smith, with one of his multiple videos about Baldur's Gate 3. The video that we'll be taking a look at today is the Baldur's Gate 3 delusion is done. The gaming industry failed to stop Tears of the Kingdom. That's right, guys. Two fundamentally different genres of games somehow are now competing against each other. Let's completely forget about just playing the games that you really enjoy. If I enjoy Baldur's Gate and you enjoy Tears of the Kingdom, I'm not going to judge you. Because guess what? Both games are very good. And then we have an individual like Harmon Smith that doesn't like competition. That doesn't like a good game coming out, that beats a possible Game of the Year contender from Nintendo. So without further ado, let's go watch him cope and seethe.
I legit spent all of this week, fantasizing about going home.
I'm surprised you leave the house.
I had so much to talk about. There were so many things I was beginning to notice about Baldur's Gate 3 and the Shilling campaign and the Metacritic scores. There was so much material to cover, so much to go over. I wanted to come home. I wanted to do a Chiller 7. I wanted to go over it. I wanted to, expose everyone involved in this situation. I wanted to do so much, but because I have a real life...
Yeah, nah, Chief, I'm calling bullshit. If you had a real life, you would not be fanboying for your piece of plastic or your console of choice, or a company of your choice. You would have far more important things to do than sit on your ass all day and talk about something that is so meaningless when both of these games are performing so incredibly well. You should just be happy, but I guess not. You always have to find a problem. At the same time, what do you gain for a game being bad? Because that means you get two really good games to play. Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate. And soon, if Starfield's good, you'll have 3, and if Spider-Man's good, you will have 4. There's nothing wrong with a good game. The only downside is it may be exclusive to a platform. But if you have those platforms, or in your words, Harmon, are incredibly rich to have your own high gaming PC, I'm sure you can afford to get a rival platform and enjoy these games, or wait for them to come to another platform.
Because I am so busy, I couldn't do anything more than do a handful of update videos. And I think some of them might have been pre-recorded. So I was not available to cover Baldur's Gate 3 at the height of its popularity. And now...
I don't know why you need to keep telling us that you're busy. If you're busy, you will just go do it. There's no need to tell us. If you were busy in the sense of crying and coping that a game may win Game of the Year over Tears of the Kingdom, I would not be surprised. Because who really cares? If it's your personal Game of the Year, be happy with it. It's your personal one. Not everyone's going to have the same opinion as you.
A whole week later, it is already forgotten. Ooh, it seems like...
I don't know about you. A lot of journalists, a lot of developers are really mad at the game, and everyone still seems to be talking about it. So either you live under a rock, or you're just so special to the point you have no fundamental awareness of your surroundings.
The shill money has run out. Baldur's Gate 3 has suddenly just dropped off the face of the earth. Nobody's talking about it anymore. More and more people are beginning to notice the problems.
Harmon, every game has problems. Every game has player drop-off after the first week. It's how it normally goes. As people play through the game, and they finish it, they don't want to play it again. People are still talking about Baldur's Gate even now. After I'm done editing this video, I will be playing Baldur's Gate. And the player numbers don't really make the game seem like it's dead.
The glitches, the issues with the game from a structural level, from a gameplay perspective, from a storytelling perspective. The game is layered and layered with problems that the initial wave of Metacritic scores...
I wish you could show some examples of these problems, as you always mention this in most of your videos when we either react or talk about you. Because every time you mention a game that is a competitor to anything Nintendo, there's always problems in your eyes. There's always something that could be done better. Or, you will always find a way to shit on that game.
Conveniently did not address. And
oh my god, the same thing happened for Tears of the Kingdom reviews. Some journalists skip over the bugs. It always happens with every game. Baldur's Gate is not special.
What happened was that this massive RPG came out that was relatively niche, that wasn't all that popular. A bunch of people latched onto.
Don't lie, you didn't even know what Baldur's Gate was before this. You're just mad a game is performing well. Does it hurt you on some level that a AA company is doing something that AAA companies should be doing as their standard? You know, releasing a fully functional product on launch that is actually enjoyable and respects the player's time?
It, a bunch of niche enthusiasts latched onto it. Oh, this is gonna be the game of the year. This is the best thing I've ever played this year. And then like normal audiences caught wind of it, and the Metacritic score is slowly.
Who knew good word of mouth could help make a franchise become more prominent? Like, for example, the Souls games, and now Baldur's Gate. People will be looking forward to see what's next from Larian Studio, because if it's up to the quality of their previous games and now Baldur's Gate 3, people will be very excited. Except you, of course. And of course, a Metacritic score doesn't mean shit to me. I've enjoyed all my time with the game. And of course, it will go down slightly. Not everyone's going to have a perfect 100 or 10 out of 10 review of the game.
Trickling down as like people outside of the niche, outside of like D&D enthusiasts are like playing through the game and starting to realize that like, yeah, it's really not that good.
I don't know, seems like a cope, Harmon. If it was on Nintendo Switch, you would be praising this game non-stop. Especially if it was an exclusive to your platform, you would absolutely love this game. And I'm sure if you were to play this game, you would absolutely enjoy it if you were someone that enjoyed not getting your hand held.
Compared to other games out there, right? This happened with like the House of Fata Morgana because a lot of people accused me when I posted that like 100 Metacritic score for the House of Fata Morgana. Like they said it was fake, but
I could believe it if it's coming from you. You're 100% a accurate source of information. There has never been a problem with you not showing proof or photoshopping things to meet your narrative. If you knew how to Photoshop, of course.
no, it wasn't fake. There was a period of time in which the House of Fata Morgana was the most highly reviewed.
What's that? A game has a lower score over time because more and more people get to play and review it? Oh my god, is that what's happening with Baldur's Gate? Oh my god, Harmon.
Title on Metacritic, period, across all platforms, across all genres, across all mediums. Like the House of Fata Morgana stood tall as the only visual piece of media that had a perfect 100 points, right? Why was that? Because like only 3 people reviewed the game, right? And the same thing happened with Baldur's Gate 3 initially.
I don't know, a 96 with 65 critic reviews is pretty good, with a 9.1 user review score. With 9,000 reviews, seems like someone is just a bit upset. And what do you gain from giving a shit about the Metacritic score? To me, it means nothing. If a game is good, I'm going to play it.
Like right out of the gate. A handful of developers, a handful of like corrupt publishers came out and gave the game perfect scores, like ignoring all the problems, ignoring all.
So you mean shills? Every major company has a couple of those. They're usually called fanboys as well. And can you guess what? I'm sure Nintendo, and especially Tears of the Kingdom, had quite a few of them. Every major company has their own publications, and I'm sure they give their own games 100 just to spice it up and make the game look better than it really is. And on top of fanboys blindly praising a game that is tied to that console that they so much love, looking at you, Harmon, and your favorite Nintendo, I'm sure you would give all their games 100, regardless if you like it or not, just despite every other platform, because you think Nintendo is fundamentally superior.
All the issues, ignoring the fact that there are better games out there in order to push this agenda that this was the best game ever made. And
I feel like this clip perfectly describes you talking about Tears of the Kingdom, as it sounds just like what you do when Nintendo releases a game. Your self-awareness is truly amazing, Harmon.
Now that like it's been a couple of weeks, now that more people are finishing up their reviews and playing through the game and starting to realize that this game does have problems, that Metacritic score is slowly coming down. As of right now,
you were really hung up on the score of this game. What does it mean to you? Does it really hurt you that much that Tears of the Kingdom has competition that may, in fact, take Game of the Year from it? If it makes you upset, I hope it wins.
Now it is at a 96, and I think when the next couple of reviews coming out, I could see it dropping as low as like 94, right? Like it will no longer be like the most critically acclaimed game of 2023, even though it never was, right? And
I don't know, Harmon. A lot of people may disagree with you on that, but I'm sure you would have a good time arguing with them in your comments.
That's the thing about this. That's the only reason I talked about this game at all, was because so many people came into my comment section like, "Oh, Baldur's Gate 3, it's more highly reviewed than Zelda."
Personally, I don't care. Make up your own mind. See what you guys think in the comments.
It's gonna outsell Zelda for sure, and I just kind of laughed at its face. Like, if it wasn't so blatant, if it wasn't so ridiculous, if it wasn't so absurd.
Personally, I could see it coming close to outselling Zelda. I don't think it'll actually do it, but I think it will come incredibly close.
Like, I probably wouldn't have talked about this game at all. Like, this game is going to, like, fall by the wayside when...
Personally, I don't believe that story. You're definitely going to talk about it, because it's a Game of the Year contender, and that's the only thing that you really care about.
Like, by the time Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Starfield comes out. Like, I honestly I'm not even sure, like, forget, like, not winning Game of the Year. Like, at this point, like, seeing how quickly it's fallen off, like, I wonder if it's even going to get nominated. You know, like, that's one of those situations where I'm just kind of like...
What do you mean it's fallen off? It still has 450,000 players on Steam right now. But if I can guess, in your mind, if it's not constantly hitting a new peak of players, and not hitting even more milestones than it already has, it's definitely a dead game in your eyes. Because no one's clearly playing it or talking about it right now as I speak.
Like, this game came out, was talked about, and was just tossed aside so quickly. Like, I really feel as if, like, the debate, when it comes right down to it, is going to be between Starfield and, like, Zelda. And, like, Starfield only because it's a big AAA game. Like, really...
That's right, guys, Baldur's Gate 3 isn't a AAA game. Not like that was what it was trying to achieve by giving us quality and a standard of a AAA game, or should I say, an old-ass AAA game, because, you know, they actually made a finished product, unlike newer AAA games.
There's just nothing else, right? Like, I talked about this earlier today when I released a video statement about how, like, about how the industry is trying to find something that can beat Zelda. You know, they threw out Hogwarts Legacy, they threw out Final...
That's right, guys, everything's out to get Zelda and Nintendo as a company as a whole. You better watch out, Nintendo, we're coming for you. You better hope we don't actually make a good game. We're gonna make sure that no one ever plays your games ever again, you know, consoles with much less units sold. We're gonna somehow take all of your players.
Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6, Diablo 4, they tried everything, right? And nothing is sticking. Nothing. Nothing is touching Zelda's numbers. Diablo 4 has already fallen off the face of the earth. Everyone hates it, right? You know, that had a big shilling campaign too, right? Like, these things had a lot of momentum coming out, but if the game isn't good, if it doesn't keep people invested, people aren't organically going to keep talking about it. And that's the problem.
So you're telling me that Baldur's Gate 3 is not organically being talked about, because by that criteria, it has matched everything that you have said that makes it a good game and worthwhile to play, because it's matched all of that stuff. It's organically being talked about, and people really like the quality of the game. It's really coming off as a cope and seethe moment from Harmon Smith. This video is really not good for you, Harmon. It must pain you to know that Baldur's Gate 3 is doing numbers that is comparable to a Nintendo game, especially something like Zelda. That is impressive. They deserve all that respect, and I hope it pisses you off every time you go to sleep.
We've been seeing with, like, non-Nintendo gaming lately is that the only time people talk about non-Nintendo gaming, they're talking about review scores, they're talking about sales numbers.
I don't know about you, but I talk about sales numbers, review scores of all the games I talk about. Because there's always something interesting to know about how much money they made and if the game is good or bad. I didn't know that's such a strange concept for you.
They're talking about, like, how many viewers it has on Steam. They're talking about, like, concurrent players. They're talking about, like, Game Pass. Like, they're doing everything they possibly can to avoid the elephant in the room and talking about how these games are inferior to what Nintendo's putting out right now.
The only two games that I can tell off the top of my head would be fucking Zelda and Mario. That's pretty much it. I do not know any other Nintendo exclusives because I don't use their platform. Also, where'd you get viewers from Steam? Do you mean, like, how many concurrent players? Because I don't believe you can actually stream on Steam. I don't think they have a service there. I think they just link to Twitch.
And I said this when Baldur's Gate 3 came out. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a better game, right? Like, if you want a game with
that is very debatable.
A more complex story with better characters, with, like, you know, a darker theme, with, like, you know, better gameplay.
I don't know if it would even come close to having a dark theme. If I can force push a bunch of children off of a cliff just because I find it funny, I don't know. I think that's pretty dark.
In general, like, play Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like, it's better than anything Baldur's Gate 3 does.
I absolutely doubt that and would gladly debate you on it.
And you know, that didn't come out this year, but that is an example of a game on Switch that, like, stomps the shit out of anything Baldur's Gate ever did, right? It destroys it.
I don't know, Chief. It's going to be pretty hard to one-up Baldur's Gate when it comes to player choice and how you can approach every situation. That's a high ceiling to pass. If it can pass it, I would be genuinely impressed.
Completely. And Baldur's Gate 3 is just one game, right? So when you compare Fire Emblem Three Houses and you realize it has a sequel, it has like a direct.
Bruh, did he really forget that fucking Baldur's Gate's the third game in its series and also has spin-off games on it? Like, oh my god. Oh, wait until he finds out that there's a spin-off series about Baldur's Gate. Ugh. Maybe one day Harmon will, use his brain for something.
Sequel in Three Hopes. It has a new entry in the mainline Fire Emblem series and Engage. It has like previous games. It has like retro games like the original.
Bruh, he's bringing up previous games to defend his argument. You can't be serious. Like, if you believe Fire Emblem 3 is better than Baldur's Gate 3, go ahead. No one's going to disagree with you. That's your choice. Some people, actually, no, I should say this. Some people may disagree with you. Some people may think you're just downright stupid because, comparing two different genres of games.
Fire Emblem 7 and Shadow of Light. Shadow of Light? What is it called? Shadow of Light? What am I talking about? Like the first one that was on the eShop for a bit. We're gonna get more releases. People are talking about a Fire Emblem 4 remake. Like the Fire Emblem franchise, it is simply bigger than anything these people can throw out.
So you're telling me that Fire Emblem as a whole is much bigger than Spider-Man? Everyone knows who Spider-Man is. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why you buy a PlayStation, because of Spider-Man. Have you seen how many views those trailers get for any of the announcement of their games? Spider-Man is incredibly popular, and I don't believe Fire Emblem will ever get close to that popularity.
Right? Like Baldur's Gate 3 next year will be completely forgotten. We'll never get a sequel like as well received. Like the Shilling campaign is over and the game is just gonna fade into.
I'm sorry, I just can't help myself. I need to stop using that meme, but I like how you say the game's just going to disappear. I don't think that's how a game works, especially one this widely successful. It's gonna be talked about for a long time, and I know that hurts your feelings, but it's the sad truth that you're going to have to deal with.
While games like Fire Emblem, games like Animal Crossing, games like Splatoon 3, they will just continue getting more and more popular as the years go on. And this kind of...
Bruh, I forgot those games existed, except Fire Emblem, since you constantly mention it, but Splatoon and Animal Crossing, yeah, I honestly forgot those things even existed. But I do find it kind of funny that you're bringing up games that have vastly different audiences and are trying to appeal to different things. Baldur's Gate was just successful because people really liked it, and don't get me wrong, you can compare whatever you want, but don't expect us to take you seriously.
It goes into what I've been saying for a long time when it comes to like gaming influencers and the YouTube sphere. Like these people are not controlling anyone. Like, they are not able to influence.
Yes, they can. They can influence a purchase, especially if the majority of gaming media around that game is positive. That may influence you to purchase that game. For example, if Starfield's good, and I see a lot of people going out there saying, hey, Starfield is a good game, it's because of this, this, and this, I'm going to purchase the game, and it's going to reaffirm that idea that I want that game, that I should be playing that game right now. Or I could just ask my friend to see what he thinks of it and if he's played it, and that could help me decide my purchase because, I'm not always going to rely on a games journalist or a reviewer to be truthful.
Anyone's opinions. If you're stupid enough to watch Angry Joe and take everything he says completely seriously, that means you're just a sheep. Like, you don't...
I haven't watched Angry Joe in a couple years. I think that's a pretty mid-example.
That means you're, not forming your own opinion. You're not going out and
That's right, because I'm not consuming Nintendo media. I'm definitely just a mindless little sheep.
Influencers to control everything, because all the games they want to push are the games that coincidentally nobody actually wants to play.
That's right, guys. No one wants to play Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate, Starfield, Spider-Man, Stalker 2, and many other games that are coming out this year that actually look interesting, or people just want to play because we're all mindless sheep.
You'll see these people talking about Raid Shadow Legends.
Are you really using a mobile game to try and prove your argument? Of course no one's going to try a mobile game. Most people don't use their phone to play mobile games. That's why they've got a dedicated gaming console. How down bad are you for a W, Harmon?
Mobile game I've ever played. Go play it now. And then in the actual content, the stuff that people actually want to watch, they never seem to bring up Raid Shadow Legends at all, right?
That's because content creators want to make money through sponsorships from Raid Shadow Legends. God, what I would do for a Raid Shadow Legends sponsor. I'm sure they would give me a fine penny.
Same situation with Baldur's Gate 3. There are corporations that are throwing money around that are capable of hiring these massive shill campaigns, of organizing this facade that these games are super popular and successful.
Yo, let's go. He's having a synthetic man moment. Come on, Harmon, this is your chance. Show us who you truly are.
Successful, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't amount to anything real. Like it doesn't amount like it's never ever going to lead into a situation where they're going to outsell Zelda.
Guys, he's figured it out. He's broken the matrix. He's figured out that people spend money on advertising to make sure that a game gets as much profit as possible. No way. Guys, he's figured it out. Oh my god, he's figured out how advertising works. No way.
Like Splatoon or Fire Emblem, as I mentioned. Like, we're reaching that point where, like, the biggest, most coordinated shilling campaign in the world is not all that effective against the general audiences, because the general audiences are intrigued.
Bro, you can't make this shit up. There is no way he goes day to day thinking about stuff like this. There is no way you come home from whatever you're doing and say to yourself, yes, there is a huge shilling campaign where people just want to see a good game, or a game that is actually good and actually treats the player with respect. I know, such a shocking concept. I know it's a conspiracy theory in the Western market, but damn, there's really something about that just screams, they're out to get us. Now, there is a couple more minutes to his video, but it's not really worth as he goes on and repeats himself like usual. So I will leave it here. Leave a like, subscribe, become a member, do whatever you want. See you next video.